Hello, everybody, USOSANs, TNN audience. Welcome to the second podcast. It's the Pro Unitate podcast, and we're delighted to be introducing to you a guest, a long-time alumni of FGC Warri, I believe, happened to be one of the founding members of USOSA, which I believe was from 17 years ago. I'll let the gentleman introduce himself, and then we will kick off. The floor is yours. As usual, Chioma will also be hosting with me. We'll let our honored guest introduce himself. The floor is yours, Mr. Dauda.
All right. Thank you, David. Chioma, you're welcome as well. My name is Dauda Iliya, an alumnus of Federal Government College, Warri, class of 1979. So I entered in 1974.
Wow.
I went to Warri, like I said, from 74 to 79, and that makes me an ancestor. Like they like to call us, the younger ones call us ancestors, and I'm happy to be here. Yes, I am a founding member of the Unity Schools All Students Association, incorporated in 2007. Before then, it was called the Pro Unitate. When we tried to register that name, I think the Corporate Affairs Commission lexicon doesn't have that word, so their computers did not approve it, and they sent us back and forth to get another name. So that's how we ended with Unity Schools All Students Association, USOSA. Sometimes in 2007. USOSA has come a long way. I have had the honor and privilege to have been in the room when it started in 2006 as Pro Unitate. I was there when we dropped the Constitution and registered it in 2007 and held our first plenary and elections. And I'm also honored and privileged to have served as Secretary General of this great association from 2013 to 2015. And with that goes the privilege of being an ex-officio member of the EXCO for the next 2 years from 2016 to 2018. At that time, one could easily just walk, literally stroll through the park and contest for a position in USOSA, literally. But I have also had the privilege of having served my own alumni association, which is the Federal Government College in Warri All Students Association, otherwise known as FEGOCOWOSA. I have served in many capacities, in many branches, in Kano, in Lagos, and Abuja. And I was one time the national president, they call it global president of FEGOCOWOSA. I served in 2009 to 2011, which also went ahead to give me the privilege to sit on the board of trustees of FEGOCOWOSA. And today I sit on that board and also serve as the secretary to the board of trustees of FEGOCOWOSA. That briefly summarizes my service history and privilege of and honor of being a member of this great association. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's an honor. We know you're a busy gentleman. For those who don't actually know Dauda Iliya. As he said, is a former USOSA Secretary General. He's a founding member of USOSA. And as we go along, he's going to give us a lot of informed and detailed information in respect to the formation of USOSA. At the early stages of this podcast, we want to establish what USOSA is, why we have USOSA, and where USOSA is going. I'll let Chioma introduce herself and open the floor with the first question for Dauda Iliya. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'm always excited when we come to this podcast because I'm more excited today, actually, because having our living ancestor, Senior Dauda, here, it's like I've come to a history class. So I'm very prepared to take in everything that he has to say. So my name is Chioma anyway, and I am Publicity Secretary USOSA. And David has rightly said why we are here and why we've started this series of podcasts to inform and to make sure that everybody knows what the journey has been and what the journey is going forward. So I would, everybody says USOSA, everybody is excited when we talk about it, but I would like Senior Dauda to, tell us what were you thinking of when you gathered in a room and decided that we need to start this thing? What does USOSA actually mean to you? What came to your mind or your minds when you thought of the formation? I'm sure that USOSAns would want to hear from you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, what was on our minds? Now, it started sometimes in 2006. And like you all know, most organizations or most legacies, it did not start out to form an association. In 2006, the first two Federal Unity schools, Federal Government College Sokoto and Federal Government College Warri, took off or started operations, so to speak, in February 1966. So, fast forward 2006, those two schools were 40 years. So, there was one great visionary gentleman that goes by the name, may God bless his soul now because he's late, Mr. Albert Okumagba, an alumnus of Federal Government College Warri and King's College Lagos, floated an idea that 40 years is a long time in the life of any institution or organization or group of institutions. So he floated the idea, spoke to a few key alumni or old students, I would rather call, of these schools. Now, beyond Warri and Sokoto, of course, the second set of schools came on board after the 1967 to 70 Nigerian Civil War. Yakubu Gowon established his second set of Federal Unity colleges in 1973. So, in 2006, Albert, God bless his soul again, contacted a few old students of these schools, Warri, Sokoto, Kaduna, everywhere, Enugu, and said, come here, gentlemen, we're 40 years old, yes, you are not 40, but at least the first two. So let's use that as a benchmark. So that's how, in February 2006, Albert put together a group of friends. I remember people like Iliya, Akinambode, Mike Magaji, late Kevin Uchenabo, and a couple of other people in Abuja here, and said, look, let's look to celebrating our 40 years. February this year will be 40 years. This was early or late in January 2006. So we started to have conversations around celebrating 40 years of the Unity Colleges. That was it. So that's the seed that today we are celebrating as USOSA. But like I said, it was just the byline of our school badge that was the uniting force, Pro Unitate. So plans were put in place to have these celebrations in February. And we started on a high note by getting an appointment to have a breakfast meeting with the then head of state, President Olusegun Obasanjo, at the presidential villa. That was the beginning of the celebration of the 40 years of the Federal Unity Colleges. That breakfast meeting was held on the 23rd of February 2006 at the presidential villa. And the breakfast meeting put together, a credible and champions of the Nigerian private and public sector that went to the Federal Unity Colleges. So we had people like late Joseph Makojo of NEPA and WAPCO Cement in that meeting. We had people like Professor Julius Okoje, who was then the Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission, NUC. We had Ifweko Omoigui Okaro. She was Executive Chairman of Federal Inland Revenue. We had a host of people in private. Aigbojo Imokode was the MD of Access Bank at that point. Mohamed Makarfi was the governor of Kaduna State. Donald Duke was the governor of Cross River State. So we had, it was a beautiful breakfast meeting we had in the presidential villa morning of February 23rd, 2006. And then we went on that same day to hold the first general meeting, or what we called then a plenary of Pro Unitate, because we didn't have USOSA at that point. So that held at Ladi Kwali Hall, Sheraton Hotel, that same 23rd of February. It was a grand event. It was well attended, in fact, beyond everybody's imagination. And it culminated, or it ended that evening with a grand ball and dinner still at the Ladi Kwali Hall of Sheraton Hotel. So that, in a nutshell, was the seeding, if you would, of the Unity Schools All Students Association, which then was called the Pro Unitate. Now, later in the course of this conversation, there are other additives and embellishments that I would want to add, and then transiting and becoming USOSA, as it were. Thank you.
Chioma, you heard it there. The bit of history you were curious about, okay?
Yeah.
Founded out of celebrations of Federal Government College Sokoto and Federal Government College Warri. A series of meetings with the then President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, attended by names that I did not even understand went to federal government colleges. I recognize one, the Ifweko Megwi. I've known her from childhood. However, it's interesting to see that people of like minds, a diversified group, because it's mentioned names from the north, the south, the east, coming together to celebrate Unity Schools. Very interesting. So, if you don't mind me calling you Dauda, in your opinion...
Perfect. Let's drop this senior thing, please. Dauda, that's it.
Thank you. In your opinion, is USOSA still on track with the ideas of the founding fathers? What was the idea that propelled it forward? What was the aim? What did you aim to achieve in founding this association?
So yes, like I said, between the February 2006 event and May, June 2007, when it was formally registered, a lot of things had happened very rapidly in government and very rapidly about the Federal Unity Colleges themselves. On that 23rd of February, when we saw the president, the Minister of Education was Mrs. Chinwe Obaje. Chinwe Obaje went to Queen's College, Yaba, Lagos, herself, immediately after the war, before the war and finished after the war. And she gave her testimonies that morning. But time travel into 2007, she had been dropped as Minister of Education, and here was Obi Ezekwesili becoming the Minister of Education. And Obi, being the kind of person she is, data-driven, accountant, Transparency International background, quickly put together a team of consultants and looked at the ministry wholesome. And so that all the votes, all the appropriations to that ministry was spent on personnel costs. And she asked herself, are we an employment agency? No. We're here to drive policy and to ensure that the 104 Federal Unity Colleges served as a model for other states and organizations to follow. The federal ministry is not in the business of running secondary schools. So in truth, the Federal Unity Colleges are an aberration. They were to serve as models to help drive and deepen policy. So Ezekwesili quickly decided that, look, if this was how appropriations would be gone, paying directors, deputy directors, and all, she would not run a Federal Ministry of Education with that kind of structure. And quickly got the approval of the Federal Executive Council to reform this very quickly. And so what filtered out in the media was that they were going to sell the Federal Unity Colleges. From those conversations at the Federal Executive Council and the kind of filtering that was going out to the media. So here was the turning point for Pro Unitate, for members of these Federal Unity Colleges. And suddenly, from a friendly breakfast meeting with the president, it became a combat for the survival of this school. We now quickly galvanized around that same group and team to say no. We needed to understand what Obi Ezekwesili and her team were doing. So that quickly now galvanized us again into, okay, so what do we do? Who are we after all? We are not even known legally. So people won't engage with us. So quickly the issue of putting together a constitution, having minutes of meetings, putting together a board of trustees, going to CAC, rapid fire to register Unity Schools All Students Association to now sit with government on the table. We sat as individuals, we sat as members, we sat as committees. Government doesn't recognize individuals. We were 104 schools at that time. So that was the birth of Unity Schools All Students Association. A shift in policy and some miscommunication from government galvanized us. We said, let us come together and fight. We cannot be here. We just saw the president less than a year ago, and suddenly he wants to sell the schools. That won't happen. So that was it. And we had these big guys in society. I mentioned a few of them. I can name some more. So we started to have our night meetings. We started to have our day meetings. And what do we do? How do we do? And that was it. We quickly got into the room and sat on the table. All the seminars and the meetings and the sensitizations carried out by Advocacy, Honorable Minister of Education, and her team had us in the room, by which time we had registered quickly as CSC. It was quick because we had the links, we had the contact, and we met the minimum requirements in any case. It wasn't a privilege. It was a matter of right, yes. So, as the policy was being driven, the communication became clearer. It dawned on us that it wasn't to be sold, but it was to be concessioned. So that in itself was a danger. Concession to whom? To the alumni associations, to faith-based organizations, to communities where these schools were situated, or to whom? To whom are you going to concession? On what basis? What's the criteria? How would you choose to whom you would concession King's College, Queen's College, Federal Government College Sokoto, Warri, Enugu, Kaduna, Jos, like that? It became hot cake, 2007. And so that also made government, through the ministry, to realize that they had some kind of response on their hands. They had to sit up. So that gave us the impetus to be what we are, to be whom we are.
In essence, sorry, go on.
Yeah, like President General Lawrence Wilbert would say, who we be. So that was the who we be. And we were in the room. We were one huge elephant in the room. I remember today, Advocacy is one of my best big name friends in Nigeria for two reasons. For that occasion, and then later for the Chibok girls, because Dauda Iliya is Chibok. And you know the role of Advocacy in the Bring Back Our Girls following the abduction of the 276 Chibok girls. So that's a story for another day. But then we had our fights, we had our shouts, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then we went in as Unity Schools All Student Association and put in bids for all the 104 Unity colleges. Since it became public, people bidded, churches, mosques, societies, communities, associations, town unions, everybody bidded for the 104 Unity colleges. At the end of the day, on an objective criteria, the Unity Schools All Students Association won the bid to run 52 schools, 50% of the 104. But, like you will know, that itself was an action in futility, because when Advocacy resigned her position and went to the IMF, or was it the World Bank now, that was the end of it. Her successor jettisoned it, and the entire concessioning was put into the cold drawer, and life continued for appropriations to the Federal Unity Colleges to go to paying personnel costs. That's it. Thank you.
So for those of you who don't know Dauda Iliya, he's a graduate of business administration and holds an MBA from the Ahmadu Bello University. He is a well-rounded professional, and he's been a banker with over 30 years of experience, including 5 years at the boardroom from where he retired in 2017. He is a member, a non-executive director and chairman board of credit committee. He now runs his own consultancy. It's called the DNI Consult, a multidisciplinary financial and management consultant firm. He is, of course, the managing consultant and CEO. So if you have management or consultancy problems, especially financial, USOSANs, you know who to look for. Look for Dauda Iliya. Interesting what you said about the Chibok kidnapping and the help you got from the former Minister of Education. I was looking through your profile and I was going to bring that up because I'm sure USOSANs might at least give 2 minutes for you to tell us a bit about the experience in being able to get those girls back home, if you don't mind, Dauda.
Well, thank you, David, for your grace. I never thought anybody was going to ask me about this evening, but then again, that's life. We still have 100 or thereabouts of these girls unaccounted for the records. Out of the 276, about 100, either dead or nobody can tell you their fate, unfortunately. But on the brighter side, credit must go to the Bring Back Our Girls, Abuja, Lagos, and New York. Those Amazons would receive wholesome credit, if you ask me, for the rescue. Sometimes rescue, sometimes Providence would get on their side and they would escape captivity. So yes, the ferocious campaign mounted by the Bring Back Our Girls, beginning the same day or the next day of the abduction, which was done night of 2014 going to 2015, April 14th to 15th, 2014, culminated in the formation of the Bring Back Our Girls under the leadership of people like Obi Ezekwesili, Aisha Yesufu, people like Hadiza Bala Usman, MPA, former MPA, MD, and many, many strong women. Without them, the President Jonathan government at that time would have conveniently wished it away that it was rumor. Now we know it's real, we know the stories, but the sad part is that as we speak, about 100 of those young girls that have become women now are still unaccounted for. From interviews and interactions we have had with those of them that have come back, relations of ours. I had a niece that was one of them. The stories are heart-wrenching. They had to bury some of them while in captivity. A lot of it would not be for a space like this. But again, David, thank you.
You're welcome. Chema.
Thank you, sir, for. I think I got emotional when you were talking about this. I can imagine how it was, especially when it's close to home, having a niece, having someone, the people that go through all of that. But thank you for the role that you played, in also ensuring that at least while we have some unaccounted, but the fact that some came home, we are grateful to God and for the work that you put in. I would so we've been doing education summit, ever since I've known USOSA, or what I know about USOSA, it's been about unity. It's been about fostering quality education. So I'm just wondering if there are things that we can do to use education. I know the last education summit touched on that, and some of the themes we've handled over the plenaries across the country also handled that. Are there things that you have not had the opportunity to say to USOSANs on direction, how we can go, things that we can do to ensure that we use this education? Because those are the two pillars that USOSA stands on, education and unity. What can we do to use education to foster unity?
Yes, thank you. We've spoken through our advocacy, through the courtesy calls to the authorities, ministers, PAMSECs, directors. Like you said, we've attended even the annual, gatherings of the principals of the Federal Unity Colleges. Yes, we try to advocate to them that it's not about multiplying the number of unity schools. 2006 we were 104. Today, between 2006 and today, well, maybe you would say not much, but we have gone to 2010. At that time, we were advocating for an optimization, meaning we should reduce the numbers. Now they are increasing the numbers. So this is it. The unity schools are not supposed to be replicated in every local government. We're not supposed to have 774 of them. No, that's not the idea. We're supposed to have students come from 774 local government to attend, even if there were just 12 of them. That's the idea. They won't listen. Every PAMSEC wants one in his village. Every director wants another in his village. So by doing that, we are further diluting. If we were to be models for excellence, you don't have 110 models. I thought we should have had maximum 36 models. I belonged to a committee we had in the history of USOSA where we looked at having them just 2 in the geopolitical zone. So 12, can you imagine? It got as little as that. So what we are trying to do is to reason with government and try to see that the Federal Ministry of Education is not in the business of establishing secondary schools. It is constitutionally the role of the states. They call it, it's not a dual legislature, I think it's single legislation. The Federal Unity Colleges are an exception to serve as a model to drive policy. If you want to experiment, you want to showcase, then you use the Federal Unity College. But we're not supposed to take that power from the states as a federal government. So we have struggled with this as USOSA over the years, and I think that struggle must continue so that we can achieve excellence. The modeling process can still work, and then we can ramp up support for the few, and budgetary allocations can face teaching and learning rather than personnel costs, what Obieze Kwesli kept hammering during her tour of duty. So if you ask me, this is the way to go in USOSA. But then again, we are divided. There are people even in USOSA who would want a Federal Unity College in their village. So I don't know. That's it. I hope I've been able to ramble through that. Thank you.
Be that as it may, Dauda, you still have diversified alumni that have come out of unity schools, all in various walks of life, a few in diaspora, and this led to the setting up of the UK plenary in 2024, which was a success. Let me use my unity school as a yardstick, Federal Government College Idoani. It took me a while to be able to convince only 5 or 6 Federal Government College Itoani alumni to attend the plenary in the UK. And it was only when they attended, they sort of now understood the value of what the Unity schools meant and the camaraderie that was going on in the room. My question to you is this: how do we engage the vast majority of USOSANs in diaspora who are not aware of the values? In actual fact, I wasn't aware of USOSA until 2020. Lawrence Wilbert is a classmate of mine, and until he brought me into it, I had no interest in anything to do with association. So that's a bonus. However, there's a lot of well-to-do USOSANs in diaspora. What do you say to those people? Because the diaspora are the main audience of the New Nigerian, which is the platform that we run. What do you say to them? What reassurances can you give them of the success that an association of like USOSA can provide?
Thank you, David. It's one of the main objectives of USOSA. Number one. So USOSA is an association of associations. So once we get that right, USOSA is an association of national or of Federal Unity College All Students Associations, 110 of them. So that's the membership of USOSA. So here is what the Constitution even says, and I quote, to establish and encourage the All Students Associations for all Federal Unity Colleges. So once you have each of these schools have their national associations, Ogolao will have it, Aduani will have it. Like, okay, let me use the one that is home to me, Warri. Warri has a strong national association, has branches in over 20 of the 36 states in Nigeria who could do better. We have the UK, we have the North America, which combines the US and Canada. So once we advocate and engage along these lines, that's the track. Get every school to have a national association. Now, once those national associations are there, you can then drive the sub-nationals, both in diaspora and at home. So that way, you can advocate and advance the gospel. Now, while that is going on, in the past years, we have tried. You mentioned, again, President General Lawrence Wilbert. He was the one that said, well, in the interim, while we're trying to onboard as many national associations as possible so that the membership of USOSA can grow from the average of 50 to maybe 80 or 90. So that's a good percentage. That's an A score. Let us now begin to have pockets of USOSAs in specific cities and locations. Even in Nigeria today, we have them in the big cities. Port Harcourt is strong. Akwa Ibom Cross River combination is there. Abuja is very strong, of course, very, very strong. Lagos is there. Jos, Kaduna are planning an event this weekend, for instance, for which I received an invite. So, and then the one I missed in September in 2024 in the UK. I hope that one day it will go to the US or North America, as it were. Maybe Asia someday. So that's the idea. That's the way to preach the gospel, through national associations, because USOSA is an association of associations. Thank you.
Sure,
Okay, thank you, David, and thank you for your time. We're enjoying having this history class and taking from your wealth of wisdom. USOSA, everybody says USOSA has the number. Why are we not? I've heard things like, why we not forming a political party where people have people all over the place. I remember prior to the 2023 election, we had done this presentation that was shared during the plenary where we listed all the USOSANs that were contesting for an office, and we had like over 30 from different parts of the country, and people are saying people are big enough to contest. So I want you to speak to USOSA and politics. Do you think that it's about time we started pushing our voices louder to make national policies, and also just like you to touch base with that's why we plan to wrap up for the day?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. It's more than about time. I think it's past time we did that. Given what you have said, we have the critical mass. But you see, politics is a very strategic game. You don't just go into it unprepared. So we first and foremost, we have to sit together as USOSANs and strategize on how to enter national politics. It's not, we have seen how it's run. It's a game of numbers. It's very strategic. We have had people play roles, governors we have had, senators we have had, members, House of Reps we have had, all sorts. Okay? But those are just shining stars in the sky. We need to dominate the politics, and we got the numbers. They're talking about structure. If you remember, they talk about the LP and the obedience structure that they said was not there or was there. We don't want to go into those kind of debates. We want to sit down, root very well, taking advantage of what we have, and galvanizing our members. Today, if you say you want an alumnus of the Federal Unity College in each of the 774 local governments, you're going to get. We did some simulation one time, and we have. So all it needs to be done is for us to be structured. We can't be talking. We need to understand. We need to put our policies, our framework, and get our acts right. Go through the requirements and the legal framework for having a political party. It may not be USOSA, but it will be like, okay, ANC will tell you that they have an armed wing. God forbid, we're not thinking about a military wing of USOSA. We don't need one. But we need a political wing that would, once we rise, the opposition itself will shiver. We have what it takes. Nobody has it. PDP doesn't have it. APC does not have. Labour doesn't have. But I tell you what, if USOSA, given its strength in numbers and even the quality of people, I dare say, if we put our acts together and galvanize, there would be no opposition. We would be our own opposition. God forbid. That's all I can say at this stage. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
The political party in the making, quote unquote. It's a food for thought. We all can think about that as we go along. Chioma.
Yes, I think that we have kept him for some minutes, and it was worth it. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on this podcast, and we've taken away some, and I'm sure that when musicians will listen, everybody will be like, oh, that's how it started. So it's really a good time well spent this evening, and we thank you for joining us and making it worth the time. David.
The podcast will, as usual, be on all our social media handles. You have the USOSA Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, just like you have the TNN, the New Nigerian Facebook page, the New Nigerian YouTube channel. When you visit these social handles, please don't forget to click the link. Every time you click the link, every time you you help support the production of these podcasts. We've gathered a lot of value, and we've got to let Dauda enjoy the rest of his evening. Pro Unitate, thank you very much for attending the Pro Unitate podcast, Dauda.
Thank you. The honor and privilege is mine. I really enjoyed talking to this lovely audience of and family of mine. Thank you.